This week on News Time, we are back, baby. After weeks of working out of a temporary studio, News Time returns to the hallowed halls of the Black Sheet. It smells the same, like pine sol and desperation. Alright, Ron, back on track. I got it. Oh, hey, this is the 200th episode of News Time. Isn't that crazy? I've been doing this for 2 years straight, and no one has taken notice, just like my regular life. And this one's in two parts. We're covering indie studio A24's step to the top of the movie charts in the first episode. Now, if you'll excuse me, we're still unpacking, and I have got to find my anti-werewolf pills, or else I won't be a happy camper by the end of this.
It's News Time, delivering to you the news you didn't know about, the news you didn't care about, and the news you didn't know you cared about. With host, Chad White. Now, here's that host, Chad White.
I read in the trades that A24's original name was but that was hard to put on the tax forms. Welcome back to News Time. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is the studio news that you didn't know about. Indie film studios are some of the hardest working studios. Week after week, they release movies that don't get as much time in the sun, if any, that a dumb superhero or high-profile drama do. An indie movie can sit unnoticed for months until its subject matter is relevant or deemed as much in a world where it's needed most. More recently, A-list stars joined the ranks of their other fellow actors in the foxhole of indie, and several studios have come into the forefront, acknowledging our hunger for movies that don't involve power stones or gratuitous gun violence. One of the best studios in the business is taking the world by storm with its approach to distributing and creating indie movies. A24, which stands for how many movies they've put out in the past 2 years, and also that's not true, is hands down the studio to look out for. Name any movie without a wide release from the past 2 years with a kitschy cast and hard dramatic theme in either horror or suspense. It's most likely an A24 flick. Sometimes it's a comedy too. One such comedy movie was Bo Burnham's 8th Grade, releasing this past week, the comedian's first foray into major motion picture photography. He'd previously directed a couple of comedy specials, including Gerard Carmichael's, Chris Rock's, and his very own. The kid's talented, and critics are raving about his latest effort. I wish anyone would rave about anything I did. Here's a reenactment of how I think it'd go. So much. But enough praise for Burnham. This episode of News Time is all about A24 and its rise to stardom. Back in 2015, A24 came into the zeitgeist with two movies that changed what it meant to be an indie studio, The End of Tour and Room. While the latter was the one to really make an impact, both were considered to be phenomenal pieces of work. Of course, they also had hits, Ex Machina and Amy, both of which won Oscars alongside Room. Keep in mind, this is the same studio that released Spring Breakers years before, the movie with a cornrowed James Franco. 4 years after which they'd win an Oscar for Best Movie, beating a better movie, but that's neither here nor there. La La Land is better. What makes A24 so special? As IndieWire contributor Eric Kahn puts it, they became a safe haven for edgy, boundary-pushing movies free from middle-brow art house sensibilities or Hollywood dreck. A24 is a tastemaker, a Hollywood shaker, if you will, quite literally changing how movies can bring in an audience that wasn't there before. Their footprint is huge, and it's growing rapidly. They're proving it's not about raking in enough dough to justify a 3-digit budget. It's all about retention. Look at the box office numbers for A24. Lady Bird is the highest grossing one, and those numbers wouldn't dent Avengers Infinity Wars. But I guarantee its message will stick with viewers longer than whatever was happening in this summer's highest grossing movie. A24 is different, and they operate at a frequency that no studio can match. Vanity Fair contributor Johanna Desta writes about the company's path to becoming the next Miramax, one of the first indie-turned high-profile studios. A24 is hands-on, letting anyone they work with share in the vision of the creator. Jonah Hill was able to pitch his entire movie to the whole company. The producers and directors of Swiss Army Man were part of the marketing campaign behind the movie, and the same thing goes for The Witch producer Thomas Binsky. A24 works with movie makers to deal with the romantic notion of creating a movie, going above and beyond by including them in the unsexy post-production distribution process. Desta may note A24's meteoric rise along with the similarities to Miramax, such as their love of the sci-fi and horror genres. However, there are notable differences between the two. For one, Miramax didn't have the luxury of video on demand services. A24's movies can have a meager box office offering and, a few months later, live La Vida Loca on Amazon Prime Video. This deal on top of a $40 million one with DirecTV for joint acquisitions. With all this success, you'd think A24's movies are not without their faults. You know what happens when you make assumptions. They're like assholes. Everyone has one, I guess. Most of the issues stem from the first-run movies. Take Hereditary, the latest horror movie to ruin your night's sleep. Review aggregator CinemaScore gave the film a D+, which is the exact grade that helped me pass Latin, so I graduate college. Thanks, state of Tennessee. And then there's The Witch Before It, which landed mixed reviews. And It Comes at Night, A Ghost Story, The Killing of the Sacred Deer. Critical consensus is top shelf, while audiences remain in the toilets. Sure, they go see the movies, but they don't have to like them. Also, check out last week's episode of News Time, in which I talked about review aggregates and their uselessness. Why, in the case of the horror movies on the list, they tend to do more setup than punchline. Replace setup with world building and punchline with scary business, and you really get what I mean. Variety contributor Owen Gleiberman suggests audiences have grown past their traditional scares, which are different from teen horror jump scares, relating more to a kinesthetic element of funhouse sensation. The Hollywood Reporter contributor Richard Newby agrees, both citing an emotional element within the movie that connects, or is supposed to connect, the audience with Toni Collette's character. Audiences that can't, or don't want to, let themselves feel Colette's pain are taken out of the fearsome experience and rate the movie as bad. A24 is rocking the distribution game. It's acting like the studio Netflix wants to be, except one of them is less snooty about how to do it. What A24's plan of attack has shown us is there's no singular way to becoming the best studio out right now. They have no idea if their movies will score well, or if they'll make money, or what the thematic element of the film will take off. What they do know is how to hit a vein within the culture. Not only that, they also know who to tap so that they can extract as much from said vein as possible. Is anyone else as queasy as me? Can you believe it? We've finished the first of a two-parter. That's right, News Time is diving into serialization that doesn't involve Ron the producer losing his wife and kids, or my descendant into madness. Part 2 will be here in 2 weeks, and we'll cover all of the other indie studios who were so kind as to pave the way for A24. Thanks, BBs. Now, before I end this, I want to mention the importance of this episode of News Time. Like I said earlier, this week marks the 200th video I've done for this series. It's insane and crazy and criminally underrated, which is the review I wrote for it this very second. I know I crap on News Time a lot, like pretty much every single week, but this show remains the world to me. I love doing it, not only to hone my craft, but also to make the news fun and easy to digest. And if I can make the handful of people who watch every episode every few weeks learn a thing or two, then I've done my job. So thanks for watching. And that's all the news I have for you for this week on News Time. And why don't you subscribe and check out one of our other videos? Of course, you can always head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where everything's looking nice and shiny. You can follow us on Twitter at cpluscomedy. Follow me on Twitter at ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Listen to the Constitutionals podcast now on Spotify. And be sure to never, ever go to a playground and turn into a monster that's destroying Korea by accident.